2013 was a heck of a start to the year. This is the Bow River, right as it feeds into Calgary below the Bearspaw Reservoir. The volume of water here is just ridiculous. To see it that close, right coming out from under the dam, just how turbulent it is.
Did you see the mist rising?
I'd never seen anything like that. And at the time, I was living in Bowness, which is right down in the river valley. I've seen this view so many times before, it never looks anything like this. You can just see the houses over there completely underwater. And the craziest thing is, this apparently wasn't even a 100-year flood for the Bow River. The Elbow River got it much worse. Hopefully, this doesn't happen again anytime soon. But every spring when you're mining, you do get that water that rises up. It may not rise up quite that much, but you do have to put a little extra effort into getting to places unless you're willing to wait for July and August. So that's where it helps to have an all-wheel drive vehicle or truck. This is a station wagon I had for a couple of years, and it really did the trick, getting in and out of places. But at a certain point, you gotta forgo gold mining and just get out and camp. Really enjoy the outdoors for everything else it has to offer, and take a moment to appreciate everything good that life has given you up to this point. And in time, one of the good things life has given me is the ability to go out and gold prospect. So now is your opportunity to get back into the river once the floods are over. Anytime you can be out gold mining wearing flip-flops is a good time, in my opinion. So right here I have that Latrap sluice, just to check. A lot of guys like to put a second sluice below their primary catch, just to see if they're actually catching everything.
Really leveled out. Got the on the sunny side. Got the legs adjustable. You sort of unscrew this and this slides up and down so you can get it perfectly level. Look at that. Nice black sand showing in those ripples. Everyone's just full. Clears itself out really good. And all these rocks here, the next rocks come down, they just push these off for you, so you don't even need to clear them. Not a bad setup. Each shovel is about 100 little colors in the pan, or at least somewhere over there it was. Pretty decent spot.
So one thing you'll notice here is that that's a fairly shallow hole. A lot of the times you hear that gold sinks because it's heavy. But in this case, the gold's all in the top 6 inches. And a lot of the times it's only the top 4 inches that actually has that gold. Basically the gold is in the gravel that got worked in last year's floods. So that's why we're just digging the top here. The only way you can really figure this out is you take a gold pan, count the colors on the surface, and then when you dig a little deeper, count the colors down there. Only dig gold that you actually know is there. The box can easily handle 2 people digging. One strategy I learned later, you actually want to start digging below the box down here so that all the silt that's coming out actually refills the hole that you're digging. Because when you're done, you really want to make sure you knock down that pile of gravel and leave everything sort of untouched. 2 advantages. 1, it just looks better for everybody else. And 2, if you're on a really good spot, you don't want to let everybody know that you're digging there by leaving the evidence of a big pile. It's really nice when you see a picture of gold to have some form of scale, which is why I always like to put a dime in the picture. Now this ridiculously fine flour gold unfortunately doesn't weigh as much as it looks, but it sure is pretty in the pan. So gold mining is all about concentrating material. When you're out at the river, that's where you may shovel through a yard of material and bring home just a little tub of it. And then this little tub I spoon one by one into a cleanup sluice. So if you have a sluice like this, you're left over with maybe 1 cup, about 250 milliliters of material that you can pan out. Because panning out concentrates like this with all the black sand in there, it's really tough and it takes forever. So that's where a cleanup sluice like this comes in real handy.
And I've got all that to go. Into the bucket Fred gave me. 110 volt pump. So I just got a little valve here in the line, and I use that to regulate the flow. I just got this that blue stuff. It's just the furnace filter material. It just helps spread out the flow a little bit. You got to use jet dry in here for sure. And pretty much what it is it's a piece of plexiglass. If you can see that underneath. So yeah, it's just a piece of plexiglass, and then I got this aluminum 1-inch angle that I put around the edges and siliconed everything together. And then this is it's like a Hobbyco cutting mat. I got it at Staples. It's 24 by 18, and it's pretty much smooth, but it's got just the tiniest little bit of a tooth to it that really, really works well. There's the gold. There's my cleanup sluice. It's a steel stud, 3.5 inches wide, and I pretty much just raised this up here as a slick plate, and then there's about 5 feet long of this mat, silicone down the edges. Seems to do a pretty good job. So that's that for the ultra-fine Alberta gold for the year. Then it was time to take this $200 Nissan Maxima out to BC. Had a tiny little tent. That pump cost as much as the car, and all that gear somehow fit in the trunk, and was able to basically get out with very minimal supplies and yet still meet up with some incredibly generous locals. This is Fred. He's just having a look through some concentrates right now. Showed me some great local spots, showed me how to pan like an old timer, and generally was just a great host. This is the gold I found out of that trip to BC. The nuggets came from a different location than all of those finds, and here's how we did the clean out for that. So spiral panning wheel, and whoa, there's a
picker.
Yeah.
Already hit the bottom of the pan.
So then basically what gets pulled up through the middle is your heavy stuff, and it's just the first run, but I mean there's definitely found some gold. This is from 1 hour of running my sluice. So this is one pan out of a little spot I will discuss privately with Ron, and then he can decide whether or not to let you know where it's at. Trying to view through the camera / pan this down. Scattered some around the pan already. See if I can clean this up a little further without losing everything. Anyways, decent amount of color in that pan, and that's one pan, and now it's time to try high banking that spot.
So those were the
that
first
big one went up
nuggets
this time.
that I'd ever found, but the icing on the cake was that the largest
think
nugget was
these ones
just
are
sitting
gonna
on
go up,
bedrock
though.
by the side of the creek.
No, they
Those three aren't though.
no, those have got some size to them.
So those were the first nuggets that I'd ever found, which was pretty exciting. But the icing on the cake was the biggest nugget was just sitting on bedrock right by the side of the creek. I did end up heading back for one final trip for the year, but eventually you just have to hang up your pan and accept that the year is over Hope you did well, and we'll see you next year. Thanks for watching.